there are lots of different kinds of relationships. So, are there any principles of relationships and communication and connection that have had a huge impact on you in your life where you've actually learned to, relate to other people that you think have been valuable?
Well, one of the things that Dale Carnegie says in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, great book. But he says the first principle is make people feel important, make people feel valuable, and at the very least, don't do anything that takes away their sense of value and importance. And so, great managers, great bosses don't criticize, they just ask questions and listen.
Welcome to the Brian Tracy Experience. I'm Dr. Christina Tracy Stein. I'm here with my brother David, my dad Brian, and very soon our sister Catherine will be joining us, which is very exciting. And today we're going to talk about relationships and the relationships you have with the important people in your life, work relationships, personal relationships. So, Dad, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about what you first learned about relationships?
Well, overall, your life, your success, your happiness, even how long you live, is going to be determined by having good relationships with the important people in your life. The most important thing when people are on their deathbeds, they always say, "I wish I had spent more time with my family. I wish I'd spent more time with my wife," and so on. That's the one regret. So it's really important to get balance in your life, is to realize that the people in your life are the most important of all. Now, we'll talk a little bit about people who have not yet formed a relationship because they're still in the evolutionary phase. And we'll also talk about people who are. Now, I'll give you my background. I met Barbara 48 years ago, and we've been together happily ever since. Barbara, come on, show. Here she is. There's my beautiful wife, who I love more than anybody in the whole world. And she's been the center of my life. And then after we got married, the first thing we wanted to do was have a child. And our first child was born 10 months later, Christina. And we loved her to death.
Hey,
And
Kat. So we're talking about relationships,
yeah,
how to have good relationships, the importance of relationships, what Dad learned growing up, what his experience in terms of principles of relationships, and of course, what we've learned from him about how to have healthy, happy relationships.
yes. And Barbara and I decided two things at the beginning. Number one is we would make our children feel valuable and important. And so therefore, we would always compliment them and praise them and tell them that we love them. And the second thing we decided was no criticism. Criticism is like a poison. When you criticize somebody, especially somebody below you, like a child or an employee, it really painful. It hurts, and sometimes the criticism will last forever. One of the things you do is be really careful when you say something to someone. So what we did is we eliminated criticism, and Barbara and I built a company with 35 people, and nobody was ever criticized. People make lots of mistakes, so we'd say, "Well, you remember this? What happened? What did you learn? And what are you going to do differently?" So we just talked about it, but we never criticized. You know what the most important quality for success in life is? Ambition. It's desire. It's wanting to do and be and have more and then looking for ways to do it. And the 80-20 rule applies, is that 80% of people don't. They don't have ambition. They don't have desire. What they do is they seek security, which is the bottom of the pyramid. They just seek security and not losing their job and doing what the boss says and catering to other people. It's the top 20% who have ambition. They want.
You talked about parenting us and how you decided, you were never going to criticize us, only give us positive feedback, that was something you guys decided. But there are lots of different kinds of relationships. So are there any principles of relationships and communication and connection that have had a huge impact on you in your life where you've actually learned to, relate to other people that you think have been valuable?
Well, one of the things that Dale Carnegie says in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, great book. But he says the first principle is make people feel important, make people feel valuable, and at the very least, don't do anything that takes away their sense of value and importance. And so, great managers, great bosses don't criticize, they just ask questions and listen. My parents, my mother My mother, if I made a mistake when I was 10, she would be reminding me of it when I was 15. She never let it go. She got her teeth like a bulldog, never let it go. It criticized me year after year after year for one little mistake. And so we resolved we would never do that because we wanted to raise happy, healthy, self-confident children.
I'm curious, Dad, and Christina as
Yeah.
well. Question for you too. I've noticed a pattern with relationships. I noticed that a lot of people who are single, who are looking for a partner, will get into a relationship and things won't go well, and they'll break up, and then they'll jump right back into another relationship, and they'll experience the same dynamic, and almost like they keep repeating that over and over and over again. Do you have advice for people who are single, who are looking to get into a relationship but don't want to keep repeating the same mistakes and keep drawing the same sort of people into their lives?
Well, you have to take some time to reflect on your part in that, right? If you're the common denominator of the relationship and you're bringing this theme in each relationship, then people really have to become self-aware. So it requires work and effort to actually kind of take responsibility for what you bring to the dynamic. And I think that's hard for some people to identify weaknesses or areas for growth in their personality or in their communication style. But the more you invest in yourself, the better you become, the better partner you are, better person you are. And so if you're repeating a pattern like that, then I think figuring out what you're bringing to that pattern is the first step in not repeating it, right? You have to be aware of what's happening so that you can course correct and move in a different direction.
So what does that self-inquiry process look like? Like, is there you've talked to a lot of people
Yes.
in your practice who have been in and out of these types of situations. Is there like a script or a series of questions that you sort of ask to guide them through to sort of help them figure out what patterns they're repeating?
What I usually do with people who they come in with this kind of an issue is I ask about the story and I ask about what's happening and I get them to tell me what dynamic is occurring and how it's repeating. And then we start to track their responses and how something will happen and they will have an emotional experience about it. And then they'll take an action to reflect what they're feeling. And that action will impact the relationship. So I think that the most helpful thing to do is to really start to track your feelings, like if you're repeating a pattern or you're starting to feel anxious, I know, Catherine, about attachment, and David, the attachment styles, secure attached, anxious attached, avoidant attached. If you aren't aware of these 3 different attachment styles, these have a huge impact on your relationship dynamic. So if you are securely attached, then you have the confidence and the peace of mind to let your partner do their own thing and come back. If you're anxiously attached, then you don't trust the attachment and you need validation from the partner. So you need them to reassure you that things are okay, that they're liking you, that the relationship is continuing all right. And sometimes if you're anxiously attached and the relationship, you get more invested, you can become really jealous, you can get possessive, you can have a lot of stress interacting with a partner, which tends to push people away. So that's something to be aware of. And then people who are avoidantly attached, when you do start to feel close to somebody and it starts to feel intense or there's intimacy in the dynamic, that feels overwhelming. And so you tend to push the person away. So maybe you start a fight, or if your partner is avoidant, they might start a fight with you to create space because the connection and the intimacy is too overwhelming. What's up, Kat?
There's also a 4th type, which is anxious avoidant.
Yes, of course.
So it's a combination of the 2 types. So it's like varying between the 2 behaviors. To add to understanding your patterns, I think if you've had repeating patterns, you need to spend some time getting to know yourself better and identifying things about yourself that you may avoid or not want to accept about yourself, and also strengths and weaknesses. So I think that more important thing about not repeating patterns is maybe, building a better relationship with yourself.
How do you carry that? Like you're saying, right? The question is if I was getting into this relationship now, would I still choose to get into this relationship? Does this carry across to friendships, to work relationships, to how do you evaluate those dynamics in other parts of your life?
It's a business principle, and it should be a life principle called zero-based thinking. Zero-based thinking is where you draw a line under everything that you've done so far, and you ask yourself, is there anything that I'm doing in my life that, knowing what I now know, I would not get into, I would not do, I would not take this job, work for this person, produce this product. And the way that you can tell that the answer is no is by how you feel. And you always feel stressed When you start to feel stressed and unhappy and tense about what you're doing, when you keep you awake at night, when you complain about it at home, and so on, that is a solution for or a question for zero-based thinking. If I was not now doing this or in this relationship, would I get into it again, knowing what I now know? And if the answer is no, then you ask immediately, how do I get out and how fast? How do I get out of this and how fast? The number one goal that you should have is to be happy. And to be happy is special for you because you are different from anybody else who's ever lived in the history of man. So what makes you happy, the combination of ingredients, is unique to you, but you can always feel it. And most important rules for you to have is listen to your gut, not your head. And your gut, your heart, right here in your stomach, will always tell you the right thing to do.
Yeah, you know, Dad, on the topic of intuition, you know, in the dating world, and Kat, you can sort of attest to this, they talk a lot about red flags or green flags, things that you should look for or look to avoid. I'm curious, is there a red flag for this question goes to all three of you? Is there a specific red flag that you look for when you think about getting into a relationship with somebody where you just run in the other direction? And
David,
what
we were talking about this the other day, and I was saying that like if you ask someone their strengths or weaknesses, or, and they can't answer their weaknesses or just avoid the question entirely, or flip it around and want to hear yours first, or
so their inability to sort of criticize themselves or have like critique themselves.
Yeah, their self-awareness level. Because if you've never thought about your weaknesses, then you're probably not doing a lot of self-reflection or can't be that self-aware. So I think that's a good one to start with.
What about you, Christina? What's a big red flag nowadays?
So this is an interesting question. And I actually talked to Julia, my 18-year-old daughter, about this because people talk a lot about the red flags. And I know that with like dating on apps and the way people are meeting now, that it's really, really hard to accept imperfections in other people. I think that, because it used to be that you'd go on a date and you'd meet somebody and there would be really great things about them and there'd be some questionable things, but like you would stay a little longer to discover about them. And I think now with the fact that it's like, okay, I've got 6 dates next week or swipe, it's like as soon as there's something that's not right with a person, then you move on. And it makes it really hard for people to like accept imperfections in other people. So I guess for like what you're saying, Kat, with a red flag of like not being aware of your weaknesses and having the self-reflection, there's something also about accepting that other people are not perfect, so that it's comfortable to be vulnerable. It's comfortable to say like, look, I'm great over here and I do struggle over here. So how people receive that conversation, I feel like would be a huge indicator if I would want to continue to, pursue the relationship.
What about you, Dad?
I remember I was going out with a girl and she asked me, she's very smart. She asked me, what do you think is your very best quality? And I'd never been asked that before. And I thought about it and it jumped instantly. I said, my best quality is I am unstoppable. I never give up. I never quit. And I had not thought about that. But forever after, that became really central because it was true. Is I never quit. And I've raised you guys, so you never quit either. You're very tenacious. Same with Michael, is you guys never quit. And one of the reasons that so I always told you, you could do anything. You could do anything. You could do anything you put your mind to. You believed it. And when children are young, they're very impressionable. You can say one thing to a child at one time when they are open and vulnerable, and it can change their lives forever. So therefore, one of the things you do in a relationship is always compliment the other person on the good things that they do and have and be and are and everything else. Always compliment them and encourage them. And that's a great question. What is your strongest quality? And then the flip side question is the one to ask is, what is your weakest quality? Where are you weak? Where do you feel that you could be better, stronger, improved, and so on? Great questions to ask, even early in a relationship. And listen to what they say. And sometimes they say it well, and you think, this is really nice. Or sometimes they'll say, I don't want anything to do with this person.
Sure. Question from Dawn Titoff, and they're talking about they don't understand why meeting people online is so prominent now. What happened to divine timing? Well, divine timing is still out there. You just have to go do the things that you love doing, and those people will be there. I have found that some of the most toxic relationships that a lot of people have gotten into come from the online dating sites. And when they finally give up, they just go, oh, I'm going to join a book club, or oh, I'm going to join a cycling club, or I'm going to go to the gym. And then they meet all these like-minded people who are just like them, and they're meeting in person, so they have the energy. So I think that there is still a lot of divine timing, but you have to get off the apps and actually go into the world and go do the things you love. So don't give up, Dawn. Definitely out there.
I think online dating like breeds impulsivity, and so if people think there's tons of options after you, then they're just going to go back to tons of options because it's like, meh. In the real world, that's not. You don't have a line of people to go through.
What Christina said. You have people in the queue. You're talking to one person, and there's 3 other people, and there's 5 other matches, and so you're not actually committed to the person you're talking to, and you wonder, and you're half in and half out, and they're half in and half out, and you're wondering why it's not working.
Well, and the challenge with having so many choices is it creates anxiety, but then it also sets you up to think to yourself, well, if I pick this one, what if I miss a better one? So I can't pick this one because the better choice is coming, so I'm going to wait, or I'll try this, and then you're always wondering if you've committed to the wrong person.
Sure. Yeah, the whole fear of missing out when it comes to dating. Yeah, I think that getting off the dating apps, even though it seems like it's the most productive way to meet people, is one of the best decisions you can do. I mean, I met my wife in person at a retreat center. We were both sort of in the same mindset. You know, you talk about law of attraction. We were both vibing at the same level, and it just cuts through so much of the crap. You know, the online dating scenes, like people are marketing themselves and they're putting their very best pictures forward, and there's you're not seeing any of the negativity. I mean, it takes weeks and weeks to finally get like some of these red flags to come out, and by then you've got other people you're entertaining. So take a month break from the dating sites, pick one thing that you love to do, and just go join like a club. And you'll be surprised how many people you'll meet.
And I would say too, a club where you do something, right? Like an activity, like whether it's running or basketball or whatever. But when you're doing something or being playful and having fun, like that's a really great way to be, you know, really excited and happy with other people where you get to shine.
It's the most amazing thing because it sets up a force field of energy, the law of attraction, and the perfect person will walk into your life at the perfect time. Now, here's another discovery, is that and Khalil Gibran wrote this in his book, The Prophet. He said there will be a moment where you connect at the first moment that you see each other across a crowded room or anywhere. You'll look at the other person, the person will look at you, and that's all she wrote. From then on, you will be together. And that's what happened with Barbara and I. That's what happens with each person. He said, if you do not have that connection at the first moment of meeting, you will never have it. So again, we say, trust your heart.
Yet another reason why meeting people in person is so important. You know, you can't really get a sense for somebody in a profile.
Well, are we talking also about chemistry, right?
Yeah.
Like there's connection, but like there's also sexual chemistry that has to happen between people, right? Like that's something that, you know, like you're saying, Dave, if you meet somebody on an app, you don't necessarily know that you have chemistry, and you might have an awesome friendship and have like certain dynamics that work really well. And then you meet them in person and there is no chemistry.
Well, and people will talk back and forth on an app for 2, 3, 4 weeks before they meet up. And then they meet up and they're like, oh, there's nothing there.
Yes.
And
but that's like not something you can really, like, you feel that. You don't describe it. You either have it or you don't. And so, you know, like, I have a lot of people who are like best friends and they want to be in relationships and they want to make it work, or they try to make it work, but there's never been sexual chemistry. And after a while, that really does have an impact. Like that's not, you need that as part of your foundation.
You need to be like attracted.
You need to be attracted to the person you're dating. You need to have that like sexual chemistry.
And I'll say this too, like you have to invest in yourself. I mean, if you talk about reading dad's books to make more money and set goals. I mean, there are a lot of good relationship books. There's a lot of avenues for self-healing. One of the things that you can do, the best thing you can do to get into a healthy relationship is heal.
Yeah.
Figure out.
Languages.
What's that? Yeah.
Knowing your love language, knowing how you like
love languages. There's so many good books out there. The book that changed my life when it comes to relationships is a book called The Mastery of Love. If you haven't read The Mastery of Love, get this book and read it, because it will change your world. It helps you to begin the healing process, to put yourself into a good mindset where you can actually meet somebody that's right for you.
Well, and you have to be the kind of person that you would want to be. Like the partner you're looking for, you have to be the person that partner would want. So
you attract what you are.
Yes. Ooh, so if you want to level up and have a good person, you have to be a good person.
Otherwise, you will attract the person that's at the same level of trauma that you're at.
Yeah.
And you'll just pick at each other's wounds, and you'll just keep repeating that cycle.
Well, when you talk about the law of attraction, as Catherine was talking about, you actually attract into your life the person that you want. And the way that you do this, the way it works, is write it down, write out clearly. Imagine that there was a perfect person factory, and you're sending in the factory an order, and you send them a list. This is the kind of person that I want. Please send me this person. And surprise, surprise, by the law of attraction, that person will walk into your life.
Dad, what's your love language?
I think it's compliments.
Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation, building up people, telling them how good they are, telling them. I always start my seminars by saying thank you for being here, 1,000, 2,000 people. It's a real honor for me to be with you because you are the elite of this industry. According to the research, only the top 10% of people in the industry will come to a seminar like this and take time off and learn and grow and then apply what they learn. Only 10%. And those are the people who are the movers and the shakers. They're the high earners. They're the ones who become wealthy and so on. And it's you. You are the best in our industry today because you're here. And then I say, I didn't notice anybody bringing you here at gunpoint. So you are here voluntarily. And you have so many other things to do. But you've given your time to me. And it's a great honor. And I promise you, I will give you a great seminar. That's how I start. And I compliment them. They say pour syrup all over them.
How do you want to receive love? Do you feel like words of affirmation is how you most like to receive love?
Probably just reaffirmation. And if people are positive around me, they have good senses of humor and so on.
So Dad, do you like people to tell you how good you are? Like, do you enjoy hearing compliments about yourself? Or, because I would say, based on what I know, and I would love to hear your feedback, Kat and David, I also think that one of your love languages is physical touch. I think you like hugs. I think you like feeling affection from people around you. So, right.
I would say those two. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think that the primary way, if you show love with words of affirmation, means that that's what you like to receive as well. And I mean, Mom's always complimentary and always telling you how great you are. So I think that applies as well.
Yeah.
What about you, David? What's your love language?
My love languages are physical touch and quality time. I think that from the moment you're born, your physical touch is the love language. And then as you develop, you sort of start to appreciate some of the other things. But I mean, a baby cannot survive without
physical touch.
Yeah. You need that bond with the mother. You need to, they talk about skin to skin with a baby. It's one of the best things you can do with a baby is just put them on your chest. So I think we all start out where physical touch is our default love language. And then as you grow up, you start to sort of, learn how to read. And so words sort of come into play. Gifts have always been the last for me, like the fifth place for me. So if someone's giving me a gift to express their love to me, I can appreciate it, but it doesn't, pull on my heartstrings. So, but that's also something to be aware of, because if you're with somebody who does like gifts and you don't care about, gifts, you have to shift your mindset and recognize that just because you don't like it, it doesn't mean that they don't like it. And so
here, Barbara and I read 30 books on how to raise children and before Christina was born, as we just immersed ourselves in reading everything that's been written. And one of the most important things we read in a book called How to Really Love Your Child by Dr. name escapes me, but everything that we read, I summarized in my book, How to Raise Happy, Healthy, Self-Confident Children. And one of the things I learned is that how do children spell the word love? And the answer is Time. And I never forgot that. And so there's nothing that substitutes time with the other person that you love, with your children, with your parents, with your friends, and so on. Time.
Ross Campbell
wrote that book, How to Really Love Your Child. And that's one of the best lessons I ever heard. So you and I, when you guys were growing up, we always had dinner together, always sat at the family dinner table, because I read somewhere in one of the Harvard studies is that children's character is formed at the family dinner table, where they talk and exchange and ask questions and laugh and so on. And we never had the television on while we were sitting at the family table and having dinner. And that's really important. The more time you spend, we say head to head, knee to knee with another person, the deeper and better is the relationship. However, You must be aware that you have to kiss a lot of ugly frogs before you meet the handsome prince or princess. Because the first part of your life is to experiment. So you go out with different people, and most of them don't work out initially because you're still a child in relationships. And at a certain point, you reach a level of maturity, and now you're ready. And the right person walks into your life. Write out your list of the perfect person for you, and that sets up a dynamic in the universe that attracts that person into your life.
Really share your love language with the people around you. And this is a great conversation to have with your friends, with your family. Ask them what their love languages are. Ask them if you're showing them enough love and appreciation so that you can kind of open the conversation to feel loved and appreciated.
I think a reason why physical touch is also a big one is because, a lot of our communication happens without words, and physical touch is a way to communicate without speaking. And sometimes words aren't needed or aren't as helpful as just, being there and being close with someone you care about and love.
That's a great point, Kat. Very true.
Like men disproportionately favor physical touch over women. Like most men will have physical touch in their 1 or 2 spot.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've noticed too, Christina?
Oh yeah. I mean, and part of it too is that I think like when men approach puberty, a lot of times parents stop touching them. And because of, they just become men or they change. And so the only physical touch they get is through sexual contact. And then that's why sex also becomes love, because that's their physical touch. But definitely, that's a very prevalent thing with men.
So anybody who's watching this can go to the book Love Languages online.
And Cecilia commented that there's a love languages for kids, which is great.
Right.
Also love languages for men, and it starts with a golf reference.
Okay. I wanted to wind up with something that changed our lives completely when we were newly married and led to how we treat our children and everyone else. And it was the discovery of the self-concept. Because every person has a self-concept. It's the person that they think about themselves and see themselves, and which determines their relationships, and everything that happens in life happens in your self-concept. It's almost, we call this the law of correspondence. Your outer world will always be a reflection of your inner world. So if you want to change your outer world, you have to change yourself on the inside. And there's 3 parts to the self-concept. You cannot say, I like myself, without feeling happy and smiling. You can't say, I like myself, and now, how do you get along in relationships? You help other people to like themselves. You tell them how good they are. You compliment them. You give them gifts. You touch them. You make other people feel important and feel valuable.
One of the things I do with my daughter and my son is I have them stand in front of the mirror and tell their mirror self, say, I love you, Amalia, or I love you, Andrew. And the little glint in their eye when they look at themselves in the mirror and they say, they're almost a little bit bashful, a little bit shy. Like, what does this really work? Like, what am I doing here? But you could just tell with a kid, especially because there's no filter. They immediately feel better. They immediately get into a good mindset. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
Think about looking in mirrors and saying, I like myself. I love myself.
Yeah. Look into your eyes in a mirror and say, I love you. And and just see how you feel.
Yeah. It's a great idea. Great. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kat, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Kat.
Yeah, first time.
This was great.
Yep. Guys.
All right. Bye, everyone.